Container will come to order.
Very good, young man. That's a hard act to follow. Okay. I call the Plan Commission to order, or excuse me, the Common Council to order. It's April 9th, 2019. Notice has been duly posted. Roll call.
Mayor Joe Chilson,
Present?
Jim Benash,
Here.
Jerry Every, Ron Jertson,
Here.
Jim Olson,
Here.
Kim Smith,
Here.
Diane Wolf.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Where's my? City Council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, insults, obscene remarks, threats of violence, or for use of council or committee as a forum for politics. Sufficient warning may be given by the Sergeant-at-Arms at any time during the remarks, and in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum heretofore set forth, such person may be cut off from comment or debate. Your cooperation is requested. Thank you. Okay, public input. Anybody wishing to give public input, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Second, oh.
Dan Stevens, 1708 Jennifer Court. I've recently been honored by the voters in our 2nd District to serve as alderman, but tonight I'd like to take a moment to recognize the service of the alderman at the end of this current term. A few years ago, I met Jim Benash at a crowded restaurant. Our wives worked together, so we ended up sharing a table, and I used that time to kind of pump Jim for information on his experiences of being an alderman and what the process was. And I don't think he thought I was real serious, but here we are. So since that time, I've come to know Jim Benash to have a very level-headed and precise approach towards municipal government. I think we're all going to lament the loss of knowledge, integrity, and leadership that he brought to this chamber. As an alderman and as a council president, I think Jim has been a class act and a true statesman. Jerry Every, he's been involved with government for decades in one form or another, and he has always promised plenty of lively and spirited debate while he's around. And I don't think anybody in this room that's been paying attention could say that he hasn't promised, he has not delivered as promised. Jerry believes that elected officials should always consider the impact that their decisions make upon homeowners and taxes. And that's something, that legacy is something I think that we should bring forward into the new council. I don't really know Ron Jertson that well, but I have been attending council meetings over the last year, and I've made some observations. Sometimes Ron will bring up topics that nobody ever really considered before. Like one time he's talking about what the revised codes on the fire retardancy of roofing materials should be, and I'm out there in the audience thinking, I didn't even know that was a thing. So this guy probably knows all sorts of things that are way outside of my wheelhouse, and the point is that everybody has something that they can contribute, and we really ought to listen. As a side note, Ron, everyone I know really looks forward to seeing your sunflowers as they drive down PH. So it's never easy to put yourself and your ideas in the public domain where you're sure to be criticized no matter which way you fall on any particular issue. It's not easy to be the guy that has to take their neighbor's problems and make them their own, but You've answered the call and you stood for election and you've helped facilitate democracy. So you should really all be proud of your accomplishments. And I'm not sure if I can really speak for all of the voters in Unalaska or if I'm just speaking for myself, but thank you, Jim Benash, thank you, Jerry Every, and thank you, Ron Jertson, for your service.
Anyone else wishing to give public input? Second call, anyone wishing to give public input? Third and final call, anyone who...
Thank you for that welcome.
Yeah.
My name is Kim Smith. I live at 436 Mayfair Place, Unalaska. I'm also serving as 3rd District Alderperson. As part of my duties in the last year, I've been serving as our community's representative on the Sustainable Lacrosse Commission. I haven't really brought a lot to the council this past year because I really have been challenged in learning a lot, which I think was very revitalizing for me to get involved in an aspect of our community and area governmental efforts, cooperating with surrounding community in a way that I had not done before. This committee was established in 2009. The city and the county of La Crosse passed a joint resolution establishing a joint long-term sustainability committee, and then the commission then created a strategic plan for sustainability, and it continues to work to advise and make recommendations on policy and funding related to sustainability and educate the public about sustainability issues. When it comes to the topic of sustainability, I think that Unalaska has a long ways to go, and that in this case, the city of La Crosse and the county of La Crosse have set an example for us that over the next future, I hope that we can work toward. And in light of that, the commission has put together a public presentation. It will be on Thursday, April 18th from 5:30 to 6:30. The name of the presentation is called Clean Energy in La Crosse. It focuses on the past, the present, and future. This will be held at the basement auditorium of the La Crosse County Administrative Center. And it will talk about the future of clean energy plans in La Crosse and area, inform community members about the commission's recent work on sustainable energy issues, and look for input from the community. There's some important panelists, knowledgeable panelists, including Anders Olson, Casey Meehan, and Kate Beaton. And I hope that some of you may be inclined to make it. If you need more information, let me know. I also want to go ahead and thank Ron Jertson, Jim Benash, and Jerry Every. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you gentlemen this past year. As we all know, serving on council isn't easy. And during your terms, I think you all have stayed true to yourself and done what you think is right for our community. And at the end of the day, that's the best any of us can do. I'm sure that the new incoming members will reflect on some of your actions and take heart to themselves to do similar as you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Diane Wolf, 910 Orchid Place, also 2nd District Alderperson with the City of Unalaska. Excuse me. I wanted to take a moment to thank the 3 alderpersons for their service to the City excuse me, of Unalaska. Thank you to both Alderperson Jertson and Every for their 2 years of service on this council. Also to Alderperson Jim Benash for your 4 years of service, and also for your stellar performance as our council president this past year. I'd also like to thank, there's 2 donations that are on Parks and Recreation agenda this evening. I did not want to specifically pull them off the agenda to thank them, but I would like to thank them. I'd like to thank God's Country Muskie Group for the donation of a canoe that we will be hopefully approving later this evening, and also Skogenheim LLC for the donation of stage enhancements. And lastly, I'd like to thank my husband. He's not here, but tonight is my 31st wedding anniversary, And if I did not have his support all these years, I would not be able to do the job that I do for the City of Onalaska. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to give public input? Second call, anyone wishing to give public input? Third and final call, anyone wishing to give public input? That portion is now closed. Report from the mayor. Library statistics, I did not receive any, so I can't give them to you. I'm sure that in keeping with what they've been in the past, that they are still stellar because we have such a fine library. Okay, promotion of Officer Sean Colgan to Sergeant. Stand and deliver.
You could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Sean Colgan,
I, Sean Colgan,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the office of Sergeant for the Onalaska Police Department,
to the office of Sergeant for the Onalaska Police Department,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I'm going to get out of the way here.
Those stripes are pretty bright. Go ahead, give him a kiss. There's a proud daughter. Okay, and now Officer Tyler Blair.
Tyler, if you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Tyler Blair,
I, Tyler Blair,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the office of an officer for the Onalaska Police Department,
as an officer, sorry, say that again,
appointed to the office
appointed to the office
as an officer of the Onalaska Police Department,
as an officer for the Onalaska Police Department,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
The shirt's bulletproof too.
Screwing that into his chest.
I don't know. Just clip it on, don't drill it into his chest. That comes later.
There you go.
Sergeant Keith Rowe?
May I say a few words first?
Okay.
It's obviously a good night for Onalaska PD here. We have an officer with about 3 weeks, 11 years, and now we're here to honor Sergeant Keith Rowe with a little over 29 years with our department. I've had the honor of working with Keith my entire career here. In fact, he was one of my first training officers. So if there's anything you don't like about me, he's probably to blame. And I think that is kind of a first for the city as well, to have someone retiring that actually trained the chief that's in the position. So it's kind of a historic moment here for the city. So it has been an honor to serve with Keith these last 29 years. So, well, I haven't served with him the last 21 for me, but come on up, Keith. He's definitely put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into his profession over these years, and we just want to recognize him for his service here today. We will be having a more formal award ceremony where he will be receiving a shadow box and his awards and everything else at that point. But at council tonight here, I would like to present Keith with a plaque in recognition for his service. It is presented to Sergeant Keith Rowe in appreciation for 29 years of faithful and dedicated service to the City of Onalaska and the Onalaska Police Department, January 19, 1990 to May 11th, 2019.
I would like to thank the City of Onalaska for not only the privilege, but the honor of employing me for the past 29 years. It's been a pleasure to work here, and I feel that I have definitely made the City of Onalaska a better place to live through my enforcement and some of the chores that I've done throughout the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
And just to wrap this section up, we will have light refreshments across the hall, so family and friends are welcome to join us across the hall and celebrate these very exciting moments.
Okay.
All right? And I'll be back, because I just want to say congratulations. Lisa.
Okay. It is a good day for the police department.
This is a nice turnout.
Okay, would the clerk please step to the podium?
Thank you, Your Honor. This evening, I'd like to recognize Trish Rutan. She has worked elections with me since November of 2002, and that was just a little over a year when I started my position. So she's been pretty much with me my entire career here. Trish stepped up when the state required that every election had to have a chief inspector. She was in the first group of the City of Onalaska chief inspectors that took training in October of 2004, and she's been serving as chief inspector in District 1 ever since. She's worked as chief inspector, election inspector, special voting deputy, and has served on the Board of Canvassers over the last 16 and a half years. The past years, the election cycle has become more complicated, and she has assisted in numerous recounts also at the county level in the last 8 years. She has survived 3 different database changes with me, and numerous changes over the years. Elections don't even look the same today as they did in 2002, to be honest with you. I know you see the elections as being the same, but they're not. One statistic that I have is in 2002, for the whole year, we processed 9,614 voters. In 2018, we processed 15,882. So we have seen a 60% increase in the number of people we are just passing through the doors. So when you go to those polls, you don't see a whole lot of difference. That means we're doing it faster and more efficiently. And I said, and keeping up with those numbers, because I said that it's a big number to be taken care of. Without our election workers, I said it would be an impossible chore. Besides the elections, if that isn't busy enough, Trish has also taken time out to help at City Hall, anywhere from stuffing our tax bills to helping organize senior trips for Parks and Rec. Trish has been a valuable employee to the city and has served us very well. She will still be assisting me as a special voting deputy up at Eagle Crest when we do the absentee voting at that facility, and will be a big help to us up there, as she will know the residents and be able to assist us with that. So I'd just like to show our appreciation for Trish and for many years of service that she has given to the City of Onalaska. Trish, if you
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a proclamation tonight for Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide a habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the city of Onalaska has been recognized as a Tree City USA for the 19th consecutive year by the National Arbor Day Foundation for demonstrating a higher level of tree care and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now therefore I, Joe Chilson, Mayor of the City of Onalaska, do hereby proclaim April 26th, 2019 as Arbor Day in the City of Onalaska, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees on their property, as the City of Onalaska will plant approximately 200 trees throughout the city on boulevards this year.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Alder Smith, second by Alder Olson, to approve the proclamation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Yes.
With your permission, we had one letter that was submitted for public input that wasn't read into the record.
I thought we were going to read it in at the time of the,
Well, up to you. Would that be okay if we read it then?
that's when I was planning on reading it anyway.
I just,
Or would you like me to read it now?
the item is actually on the consent agenda.
Okay, I will read it now, just in case it's not pulled. This letter is from George Tabbert, 809 Rachel Place, Onalaska. I support the move to hire a company to create a master plan for Onalaska Cemetery. Over our history, the town, village, and city of Onalaska have all made important decisions regarding this burial ground. Tonight's vote will be another of those important decisions. A master plan will help to extend the life of the cemetery. One way of doing this is the construction of a columbarium for above-ground placement of cremains. This cemetery means different things to different people. To some, it is a place where earthly remains can be returned to Mother Nature. To others, it is similar to a railroad depot, an arch of some sort of nature park. Like other cemeteries, it has been called the Silent City, or the city's first historical society. It is a secular burial ground, but set up like one giant resurrection machine. It has its own geometry, history, ecology, hydrology, and parapsychology, yet very much tied to the city of Onalaska and other area cemeteries, including its older sister at the junction of Old J Street and 2nd Avenue. Hopefully, the cemetery will continue to be an important park-like area at Onalaska's core. Creation of a cemetery master plan will help make this happen. Okay. Now, recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, and boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Does any alderperson wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I need a motion.
Second.
Motion by Alder Every, second by Alder Jurtson to approve the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Yeah, okay. BB. Okay, the non-consent agenda. There is no recap needed because nothing was pulled from the consent agenda. Finance Committee.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item A, vouchers. The following is a list of monies expended since the last Common Council meeting dated March 12th of 2019. The total is $2,023,375.85. I move we approve the vouchers.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Alder Smith, second by Alder Wolf to approve the vouchers. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item B is approval to deed land contained within the Great River Residency Plan Unit Development from the City of Onalaska to the Community Development Authority. I move that we approve this land deed with the understanding that it will happen after the planned unit development is approved, and if it is approved.
Second.
Gabe, motion made by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Olson, to approve the deed land contained with the Great River Residences planned unit development, and this will go into effect, obviously, after the PUD is completed. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved.
Thank you, Your Honor. For item C and the subsequent resolutions, I would like to turn it over to our Finance Director, Fred Bueller.
Thanks. Your Honor, I'd like to also turn the meeting over to Brad Vagut to discuss the results of the sale on both the general obligation and the stormwater bonds.
He's literally passing the buck.
Good thing Brad was here.
Okay, thank you. There were three items handed out before tonight's meeting. First is a summary of the next two resolutions on your agenda, and then bond rating reports from Moody's Investor Service. I'll walk through these and answer questions. First, for the general obligation issue, this is a general obligation refunding bond. The issue size is different than what's posted on your agenda, and that's because the issue was finalized just today. And so we had the best information available for the agenda. As it's finalized, the size has changed. It's now $3,875,000. This issue will settle on April 30th and then has principal payments due October 1st, beginning 2021, with the final payment in 2038. First interest is scheduled for this October, and then there'll be interest payments each each April and October thereafter until the final payment date. There's a call feature where the bonds maturing in 2028 through 2038 can be called or prepaid at the city's option beginning in 2027. So that's on October 1st, 2027. Moody's affirmed the city's AA2 rating, and I'll walk through highlights of that rating report in just a moment. But really, the very good news here is that the true interest cost is 2.81% on this obligation. That's well below what was presented for planning purposes to the Finance Committee and reviewed with council last month, or 2 months ago. The interest cost, or interest rate, is 0.56% lower, so more than a half a percentage point less than what we were using for planning purposes.
Mark, oh, excuse me, Brad, you have to leave the door ajar because it's unlocked?
Is it unlocked, Mark?
Okay, Mark, just let it go. It's unlocked, okay. I'm sorry, Brad.
Okay. So the result of this lower interest rate, really, the impact is a savings of about $300,000 on this financing cost of the city. This is largely because the change in the interest rate environment, the market, interest rates have improved pretty significantly in the last month. And the city's taken advantage of that with locking in this borrowing tonight. Next to that issue, and on the issue summary page, you'll see the stormwater system revenue bonds. This issue size is also finalized this morning, so it's different than what's on your agenda. It's $2,215,000. Similar in terms, there's annual payments, in this case beginning May 1st of 2020, with the final payment in 2039. First interest will be November 1st of this year, and then each May and November until the final payment date. And again, a 2027 first eligible call date. On this, the exciting news, the city is locking in an interest rate here below 3%. And that's for a bond, again, that's pledging the revenue of the utility. It's not pledging the taxing authority of the city. So you're at 2.99% for this issuance. It's a very good interest rate. That's more than half a percentage point less than what was used for planning purposes. In dollars, it's $169,000 of a reduction in interest, in debt service costs, principal and interest cost. I went back and looked at the improvement in rates that we talked about last month and how those numbers finalized, added up how this finalized. This entire financing package, which is a little more complex than the city's typical annual borrowings, the savings here is $1.1 million from what we had used for initial projections and for planning purposes. So overall, just very successful sets of transactions. I won't walk through the rating reports in a lot of detail, but I thought it was important that all the alders received copies, and we do have additional copies if anybody would like one. In terms of the city's general obligation rating, Moody's just released really an update to the full credit opinion, the comprehensive credit opinion that they prepared last year. The reason they really just provided the update is because we didn't have new financial statements, and there hasn't been a material change in the economic environment of the city since the last rating. But really some of the highlights, again, just as a reminder, the economy of the city is very strong. The city benefits from that. There's strong financial operations, a trend of surplus in city budgets, healthy reserves, and moderate pension liabilities with no OPEB liability. All of those factors contribute to this AA2 rating, which again, a AA2 rating is the third highest rating Moody's assigns. AAA being the highest, then AA1, AA2 after that. And then on the stormwater, some more exciting, a lot of exciting news tonight, but this is an initial rating. This is the very first time, because you haven't issued stormwater debt before of the enterprise. The initial rating from Moody's is AA3. That's only one step below the city's general obligation rating, and it's really in line with what I expected, what we had expected as in preparing the credit analysis ahead of this. So the market environment, the solid ratings, the timing that the city has here, is all contributing to some very attractive interest rates for long-term debt of the city. Glad to go into more detail if you like, or answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Brad, I would just like to tell you that we really appreciate what you do for us, and between you and Fred, the guidance that you give us is much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Item C then is Resolution 22-2019, authorizing the issuance and sale of $3,875,000 of general obligation refunding bonds. I move that we approve Resolution 22-2019, sorry.
Motion made by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Jurtson to approve issuance of stormwater revenue bonds in the amount of $3,875,000.
Just a clarification, Your Honor, this would be the general obligation refunding bonds under C.
Oops, I'm sorry. Yep. General obligation refunding bonds in the amount of $3,875,000. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's a roll call vote, that's right.
Jerry Every. Ron Jurtson.
Yes.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Jim Benash.
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Kim Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item D is Resolution 23-2019, authorizing the issuance and sale of $2,215,000 of stormwater system revenue bonds of the City of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin, and providing for the payment of the bonds and other details with respect for the bonds. I move that we approve Resolution 23-2019.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Smith, second by Alder Jurtson, to approve Resolution 23-2019, authorizing the issuance and sale of $2,215,000 worth of bonds. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
It's a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a roll call vote.
Kim Smith.
Aye.
Ron Jurtson.
Yes.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
Jim Benash.
Aye.
Jerry Every.
Gets me every time.
Okay, third try is a charm. Item E is Resolution 24-2019 to authorize insurance coverage in lieu of official bonds for the city of officials. It was a recommendation of the committee, and I move that we approve Resolution 24-2019.
Motion made by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Every, to approve Resolution 24-2019. Roll call.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
Jerry Every. Ron Jurtson.
Yes.
Jim Benash.
Aye.
Kim Smith.
Aye.
Jim Olson.
Aye.
So moved. Judiciary Committee.
I recommend that we pass ordinance 1637-2019 to rezone property located in Section 11, Township 16, Range 7, in the city of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin, from single-family residential R1 to community business B2, Phillips outdoor rezoning, Parcel 1, first and second reading.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 1637, 2019.
Okay, motion,
That was not the recommendation of judiciary. Judiciary was a recommendation to suspend the rules.
Was there a second?
yes. There's a motion by Alder Benash, seconded by Alder Every.
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay?
I'm, per judiciary recommendation, I move that we suspend the rules and give ordinance 1637-2019 its first, second, third, and final reading this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Abstentions? The rules are suspended.
I move that we approve ordinance 1637-2019 and give it its first, second, and third, and final reading this evening.
Second.
Motion made to give ordinance 1637-2019 its first, second, third, and final reading. Motion by Alder Wolf, seconded by Alder Benaj. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved.
I recommend passing ordinance 1638-2019 to rezone property located at Section 11, Township 16, Range 7, in the city of Alaska, LaCrosse County, Wisconsin, from Transitional Commercial District TC to Community Business B2, Phillips Outdoor, rezoning Parcel 2.
There's a motion to approve ordinance 1638-2019.
I didn't hear, did he say suspend? I didn't hear suspend.
I'm asking it, it's not written here that way. If we did that way in the meeting, I didn't have notes on it. Recommend to suspend the motion.
Rules, okay. We, there's a motion to suspend the rules by Alder Jurtson,
Second.
second by Alder Wolf. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The rules are suspended.
Recommend that we pass ordinance 1638, 2019, to rezone property located in Section 11 Township 16, Range 7, in the city of Alaska, LaCrosse County, Wisconsin, from Transitional Commercial District to TC to Community Business B2, Phillips Outdoor rezoning, Parcel 2, third and final reading.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Jurtson to give 1638, ordinance 1638-2019 its first, second, third, and final reading. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved.
Recommend passing ordinance 1641, 2019, to amend Section 23 of Chapter 1 and Title 7 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alaska relating to a limited number of dogs and cats, first, second reading.
Second.
Motion by Alder Jurtson, seconded by Alder Benaj, to give ordinance 1641-2019 its first and second reading.
Your Honor,
Yes.
that was also a suspension of the rules at judiciary.
Well, do we have a withdrawal of the second in the motion?
And second it.
I think you would withdraw your motion.
I'll withdraw the motion and I'll repeat it as the third and final.
I will withdraw my second.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Olson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. The rules are suspended.
Recommend passing ordinance 1641, 2019, to amend Section 23 of Chapter 1, Title 7 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Alaska relating to limited number of dogs and cats, third and final reading.
Okay, motion made by Alder Jurtson, second by Alder Benaj, to give ordinance 1641-2019 its first, second, third, and final reading. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? So moved. Board of Public Works. Review and consideration of no parking, stopping, or standing on 6th Avenue North from King Street to Main Street. Do I
Motion
have a
to
motion?
approve.
Motion by Alder Smith, second by Alder Every. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. So moved. Item B, Resolution 21-2019, preliminary assessments for alley paving project between Second Avenue North and Third Avenue North from Main Street to King Street.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Every, second by Alder Jerson to approve Resolution 21-2019. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. So moved. Community Development Authority. That's you. Community Development Authority, that's you.
You're there. You're there all the time.
You want me? You want-
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Community Development Authority, item A, presentation of HKGI on the Community Development Authority's approved redevelopment plans for State Road 16 and downtown Onalaska.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much for having me tonight. I'm Brian Hargis, architect for Boisington Kogler Group. We're a planning firm out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we are hired by the Onalaska CDA to assist in some planning projects in downtown Onalaska as well as the State Road 16 corridor. Tonight, I'd just like to walk through the findings of those reports and be able to address any questions you have. So with that, I'll begin. I'll try to be brief with the summary of the comments. I'm just going to kind of overview the document itself as we walk through it here. To the right direction. Generally, we looked at a lot of existing conditions in the area to better understand some of the physical analysis out there. We also look at market, transportation, a variety of things that help input or for us to determine some of the key findings of the report. A lot of stakeholder input as well. There was a community meeting that was held in January on some of the preliminary findings for both downtown and State 16 corridor. But a lot of conversations with key stakeholders, property owners, business owners, school district, et cetera, within the area. As you can see here, State Road 16 corridor, this study area in particular is really bound by Interstate 90 here on the north, all the way down to the south, kind of intersection here at where Valley View Mall is at State Highway 157. A lot of what this is jumping around, I'm gonna go to this, sorry. Some of the things we looked at obviously were land use, zoning in the area as well to better understand some of the existing conditions that were out there, transportation elements and roadway classifications and access, parks, trails, and open space, considering connectivity to that district for residents in and around that. We also looked at, we called sort of redevelopment scoring opportunities by using the GIS analysis here to look at land values, age of structure, to help better inform opportunities for potential redevelopment sites that could exist in the corridor. Sort of summarizing that along with what you may see as sort of a common theme in this area, taking advantage of maybe some underutilized sites that were kind of driven by overparked requirements for development, so we may look at some infill development as we go throughout. The market summary piece, again, obviously this is a great location at the State Road 16 area for retail. It draws a lot of energy and economics into the area from 45 minutes away all the way out to Toma, for example. It draws a large market area and is a very effective retail corridor due to its dot on the map and its sort of constrained location here between the bluffs and the river valleys. But a lot of great energy. It's really overperforming in all categories of commercial and retail development, and we see that continuing over time. But there are opportunities to think about increasing some intensity in that area, and that could also be in residential development as well, longer term. Obviously, some of the challenges, we heard a lot about transportation, access, circulation, getting in and out of development sites, thinking about how that could help long term. And then some opportunities, obviously the River Valley on the La Crosse side, but thinking of partnerships that could work with the city of La Crosse and broader transportation patterns and maybe longer-term redevelopment opportunities that are out there. A map sort of highlighting some of the intersection issues that were identified, as well as some of the broader opportunities for trail connectivity in and around the corridor itself. Stakeholder engagement, again, we talked a lot about this with individual property owners. We had 2 sets of engagement with those groups in that area. Just initial reactions to what they were thinking about in the future, and then some opportunities that we sort of looked at in redevelopment planning to gauge their reaction to those longer-term plans. Touched on those as well. And then, as you'll see as we get into this with the redevelopment framework findings, it's really kind of a guide on how redevelopment could take shape over the next 10 to 20 years in the corridor, and provide some key recommendations on development character through that area. So we identify here 3 districts. Obviously, the larger one is bound on both sides by jurisdiction by the city of Onalaska. The smaller 2 there, further in, have La Crosse jurisdiction on the other side with the Valley View Mall. So a lot of this you can kind of see how it plays into the shape and size of some of these parcels. It's a mixture of larger format retail, big box retail, and there's some smaller inline tenants. And there's some specific opportunities that we talk about here longer term. And obviously the market findings that we had for this particular location reiterate that it's a strong retail corridor and will continue to be so longer term. So you'll see terms and ideas like a power center or sort of a retail area like a lifestyle center where there's additional amenities brought into the mix to aid in a retailing environment. We even had a case study here where larger format retailers like Walmart, for example, are looking for opportunities to sort of activate areas that are more or less sort of desolate in their property. Those are outlier areas of their parking where they could look at additional infill sites, activate those spaces, and bring more economic development into those locations. So trying to identify those as well. The 2 other districts that we looked at here, from Theater Road down to Broad Street, really sort of characterize them as mixed-use developments, the idea of bringing opportunities for higher density residential into the area and developing more amenities for people to sort of gather around and live within that, still keeping the idea of additional retail in that space, maybe geared more towards service providers, things like that in that location, and identifying opportunities for activation, public gathering, all within the confines of the commercial development opportunities here. So we outlay a number of initiatives related to redevelopment, transportation, parks, trails, and open space with each of these broader steps. And we even suggest opportunities for potential redevelopment on this plan. Some of those key components are looking at, we obviously have active, you can't really see it, I'm kind of circling here, redevelopment sites in the district today, opportunities for commercial infill in some of the larger surface parking lot, as well as potential long-term redevelopment opportunities that introduce more mixed uses and create some more active spaces for community gathering and placemaking, if you will. As a part of both projects, we looked at tools and keys to implementation. Obviously, patience and commitment to some of these ideas is a long-term proposition. Making strategic and financially stable decisions about economics moving forward with redevelopment projects. Roles and responsibilities for the city, their departments, Plan Commission, CDA, et cetera, and also provided some recommendations like some alterations of land use in certain areas to allow for flexibility in use, such as increasing opportunities for residential in the district. And one of the key pieces was looking at how do we sort of integrate opportunities for redevelopment with transportation improvements in that area to better enhance circulation in between developments. Access is obviously really great with State Road 16, but there's a lot of private drives that end up serving individual businesses. How can we better enhance that circulation and make all the intersections safer in that district, and think about framing longer-term redevelopment opportunities? So these are guides for staff and for developers to utilize as they think about long-term opportunities in the corridor. tools for public investment. We also kind of ran the gamut of opportunities here from state, federal grant opportunities, other localized revenue sources to aid in redevelopment planning, and try to get all that on the table so it's kind of a catch-all location for redevelopment planning and sources of information for the development community, staff as well. So that's a rundown of State Road 16. Based on the agenda, should I stop there or should we keep going to the next one?
Oh, well, let's ask questions on one project at a time, so.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Onalaska State Road 16 corridor redevelopment study 2019 and place it on file.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Olson to place on file the HKGI redevelopment plan study and place it on file, or to place that on file. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. So moved. Okay, Brian, now you can.
Let's talk a little bit about downtown. Obviously, this was key pieces. There's been a lot of great work that's already been done in the downtown, coming on the heels of the planning work that was done roughly 18 years ago, kind of 1999 era, for some of the downtown planning work here. And a lot of what you'll see of this document, there's some different messaging for the downtown compared to State Road 16, but there's a format here that we wanted to follow by highlighting some of the existing background work that had been done, all the great projects that have been done to date, River Landing, Dash Park, et cetera. Thinking again about the organization of this area in terms of districts and development character and what that wants to be longer term. The downtown core itself, areas along the riverfront, State Highway 35 as well, highlighting the previous plan for Great River Landing, some of the elements, waterfront aspects to that are still to come here in the future, and sort of coordinated efforts with previous planning as a part of that as well. Again, zoning was looked at in more detail, opportunities for transition in some of those locations, as well as land use longer term, highlighting some of the transportation components. Obviously in the downtown, the pedestrian and bicycle network is really key. The Great River Trail is a huge asset for the downtown and a driver for economic development and tourism, and thinking about linking that more broadly to the region and the corridor. We also identify opportunities for stronger connections across the districts to the riverfront. Obviously, Irvin Street is a strong connection. It has the railroad crossing across the tracks down to the riverfront, and the planned improvement for that street, as well as the Paseo, which I'll talk about in a little bit for some of the future improvements there as well. The red lines on here are those ideas of opportunities for enhancing connectivity. 35 is great from a traffic standpoint, but it also can kind of create a barrier to pedestrian movement in the district, and opportunities for additional circulation for people who are coming to the district to shop, dine, as well as new residents that will be anticipated in the future, having additional access points on great sort of corridors, if you will, also very important to look at. We did the redevelopment scoring component to this exercise as well to help us better understand opportunities for potential redevelopment. Green is go. It was kind of the feedback we heard from the CDA on that. So getting the color scheme to kind of apply to opportunity sites that obviously there's active development proposals on one of them. Other locations are currently vacant or underutilized here as well. Market study here, really looking at opportunities for additional commercial development where it makes sense in that smaller scale format, but also residential revitalization of the downtown, that need for rooftops, helping to drive economic development and commercial development that comes with it at the same time. So we looked at residential opportunities in this location, employment components as well. Stakeholder feedback, again, really strong from the community meeting that we had here in January. A lot of desire for residential in the downtown area, enhanced residential for everything from rental to owner-occupied housing opportunities. And that could come in the form of townhouses to apartments to condominiums. Thinking about that. That's a scene from the open house. Again, we like the redevelopment framework approach. Everything that we show in this won't exactly happen the way we've drawn it up. There's going to be different ideas that are proposed by the development community, but we want to provide a framework for where the right uses should go within that corridor. Obviously, we looked at a set of districts from the downtown area to the riverfront residential, the sort of business corridor, if you will, along the main roadway, and then sort of a transitional area in orange there that allows for smaller scale housing transition to the single-family neighborhood. So with each of those districts then, we identify some characteristics or guidelines that the development community should respond to in terms of land use or parking or site access, building, facade treatments, things like that. So we try to encapsulate that with some precedent imagery as well as the potential for what some of the, using that terminology for what some of the potential development would be throughout the corridor. You can see a mix of commercial, a mix of sort of mixed use, vertically mixed use, as well as a range of residential opportunities. We also took the time to really develop, again, as I said, not that these would be the answer, but to really test scenarios for potential redevelopment. One of them was looking at a more targeted redevelopment scenario where it really highlighted the green areas on that redevelopment map and what could take place, maybe more near term. Not to say that it evolves completely to a scenario like the longer term redevelopment concept, but it gives direction and some ideas for the development community to think about, and kind of hones in on some of the key messages we heard from stakeholders and others in the community. Obviously, parking was talked about quite a bit. The Paseo and Irvin Street, sort of a near-term opportunity to answer that. We've even looked at mixed-use opportunities that integrate parking with commercial development. The image here on the upper portion of that is from the ground, and this is right up the same corner. So it's retail on the ground floor with parking sort of with a facade treatment hitting back behind that. So there's opportunities in a small-scale setting to increase some of the development and parking components at the same time. Transportation, we talked a lot about that. Paseo improvement idea, there's a rendering there for Urban Street to get constructed here in this year to increase some of the parking capacity for the restaurant park use and businesses in the downtown. This one's probably pretty tough to see at this scale, but highlights a lot of the features we're looking at in terms of connectivity. Irvin Street plays a big role in that connection to the riverfront. Additional trail connections, red lines there, those alleyways, enhancing those as sort of secondary corridors or frontages for opportunities for development. Linking that back to park space, there's a better example of some of the park components that would be a part of that through Urban Street as well. And then implementation. We talked a little bit about this, again, sort of similar in the vein of what we've looked at for the State Road 16 corridor. A few different sort of grant opportunities with this, but we've sort of encapsulated this as well. Look at some transitional areas for mixed density residential, going away from that downtown category, but allowing for that housing. We talk about the enhanced streetscape and Paseo piece, and even begin to think with this diagram about, I think the core message here is you look at the colors there, yellow maybe more near term, orange maybe more midterm, sort of that peach color maybe more long term, but really focus in on redevelopment around the current investments you have with the parks and let that sort of radiate out from the core and really help build a lot of energy and momentum behind the downtown. So it's a unique and a really great environment for people to want to be in, hang out in, and come to. So we wanted to articulate that story as well. So that's sort of a quick summary of that document as well. But again, the idea is to provide that framework for conversations to be had between staff, developers, and to kind of market the area and bring some energy and vitality from the development community to the area. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Questions of Brian? Jerry, go ahead.
Brian, I was a little disappointed to see not enough emphasis on expansion from Main Street going east for arts and some commercial space, because those things would kind of blend together with the riverfront. A lot of emphasis
Sure.
But,
You're talking particularly the sort of two-block area right in here? Yeah.
even farther.
Well, part of that, there's a pretty broad area of use there that's municipal or civic or institutional there. We felt that would likely stay the same for the most part. But in the context of that downtown, that two-block core really becomes a great walkable district to have that sort of energy where it's all in one place. That way it doesn't necessarily get stretched thin and along an entire corridor. And if you're speaking more about reaching even further west, maybe past the kink in Main Street, we didn't really look beyond City Hall.
Taller residentials that you're talking about.
Sure.
For instance, like a pump house, a place for arts and activity like that also mixes with downtown and restaurants and the riverfront, things like that. So,
Sure. Oh, that's a good comment.
that's one heck of a start. That is awesome. With the work you've done.
Alder Smith?
Thank you. Just want to take a minute and thank you guys for all the hard work you've done. I think you really did an excellent job getting a lot of input from our community and really capturing like what many people in our community have been saying, but we've been having trouble putting into an action plan. And also thank you to, of course, the CDA. I think the Plan Commission had a lot of input, and of course, city staff I know has untold hours invested in this, but it will really be a good tool for us as we look forward to the future and just continuing to make Onalaska better and better. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thank you, Brian. Do we want to,
I'll make a motion that we accept the Onalaska Downtown Redevelopment Study 2019 and place it on file.
Second.
motion by Alder Smith, second by Alder Wolf, to accept the what did you call that?
Downtown Redevelopment Study.
Downtown redevelopment study for 2019, placed on file. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? So moved.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Closed session to convene or to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. In this case, the performance evaluation of the city administrator. And to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, parent 1, parent E of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. In this case, review and consideration of the changes to the city administrator's contract and contract language, and discussion and consideration of a development agreement with Marvin Wanders of GRR Onalaska LLC, P.O. Box 609, La Crosse, Wisconsin, 54602, as associated with Tax Increment District, TID, number 5, and discussion and negotiation regarding the proposed sanitary sewer agreement with the city of La Crosse. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the Common Council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda.
Motion to go into closed.
Motion by Alder Olson, seconded by Alder Every to go into closed session. That's a roll call vote.
Kim Smith,
Aye.
Ron Jurtson,
Yes.
Jerry Every. Aye. Tim Olson,
Aye.
Jim Benash,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Aye.
We stand in
Closed session.